welcome to Gatekeepers. And this episode is going to be our Omnibus episode, where we're going to be answering questions from our Discord groups. In this, we are trying to focus on questions that we can't really fill out an entire episode of 2 hours on. So you'll see kind of a little bit of everything in tonight's questions. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce the panel. We have with us Shadow of Shadow and Sun and BaronGRock. Hello. I'm going to go back to solo mode real quick. If you haven't already done so, consider liking and subscribing to the gentleman here in our channel. Yeah. Without further ado, let's get on to the show, shall we? So, question: how do I get this chicken shit outfit? Well, I don't know, Crafty. So we do actually have a Crafty question tonight, but first things first, how are you gentlemen doing tonight?
Great. No complaints.
Awesome.
I'm doing just fine. Sorry, I've got my one of my little four-legged friends that's back here making cute noises. I'm like, ah.
Yeah, I got my faithful familiar here too, and I don't know what it is, but when he comes into the studio, he just sits there and literally licks the carpet, and then I got to break out the shampooer and literally just sitting here right next to me, happy as could be. If I try to move him, he's like, no, man, that's my spot. I'm just like, dude, now I got to do my carpet again. So if any of you dog lovers out there know why he's doing it, I don't want to put, chili powder all over my floor to get him to stop, but
unless he really.
You said he's licking the floor?
The carpet. Literally the carpet. I mean, is he trying to get the taste out of his mouth? No, there's no food ever up here.
Could have been Oh, really? Not even from the dog? No treats or anything?
No food's allowed in the studio. Not allowed upstairs, literally. So I don't know what it is. Yeah.
Interesting.
Nervous tick.
All right. I think we're getting some people coming in. Hello, everyone. Hello, Crafty, Bo, Charlotte, Fat Gamer. Take a channel that Paizo wants to start and open. Here we go. I'm just gonna open up some of these. Wants to 1, 2. Oh, because the open source, the OGL stuff. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that. That's gonna be the last question for the evening. Is the OGL question we got a little bit later in the day because I asked our Discord group in the discussions. If anyone had any further questions to round out our 5 that we already had, and Farmatron actually gave us one as well, and it's about the OGL. So that's going to be the last question this evening. Paizo's dead. I wouldn't call him dead, but I would say that people left 2nd edition to go back to 5th edition. I think there were some reasons for that, but I'm not entirely... I have opinions on why that is, but I don't know if they're correct assumptions. So, all right. Paizo's a body with 5 bullets in it. Well, I don't know. They might come back with a 3.0 to get away from the OGL. And if people want to support that, that's their business. So, shall we, now that we've got some people in here, shall we go ahead and get to the questions?
Sure.
Okay.
If Bruce comes in, he can always, we can always rewind the Wayback Machine and let him,
time travel is my thing, so I'm always happy to, set the Wayback Machine. Okay, so our first question, this one comes from Crafty. And this has to do with skill checks. When should a skill check be called for, and how often is requiring a skill check too often? Now, this question was submitted, I can't remember when, but it was submitted sometime in the past year, and we weren't able to make a full episode on this, and that's why it's here in the omnibus. So, who wants to field this question first?
I got this one. It's pretty easy. When should a skill check be called for? Whenever the outcome will be either tragic, epic, or hilarious. And how often is requiring a skill check too often? Whenever it doesn't follow the above situation. There's really no need for a skill check to, whatever. What does everybody say? To tie your shoes or things like that. So many game systems either assume that you're pretty good at what you're doing, or it's just going to slow down the game. It's pretty much, for me, it's that simple. Baron?
Okay.
For me, when should a skill check be called for? Anytime what I would call a non-normal or automatic response type system is not going to be kicked in. So, hey, I'm going to climb that 10-foot wall, scale that 10-foot wall to get over it. Yeah, I'm going to do that because you know what? People slip and fall all the time. Or my favorite, there's a 40-foot well, and they have to make a climb check to get down the well. Why? Because, well, the sides are not, stone smooth. Your strength can give out on you. There's hundreds of different things that, it's the anytime that you can throw the human equation into it, whereas, whenever Murphy's Law is definitely able to be thrown out there, anything that can go wrong that is a good time to do a skill check. And when it requires skill checks, I don't think can really be done too often if you follow kind of that, if that Murphy's Law type thing, if you kind of take that into heart, it can go wrong. I mean, because things go inherently wrong. Trust me, a lot. Because
okay,
your first level cleric can fall 40 feet and die.
Sound like you speak from experience.
He is.
Oh yeah, because that happened. That happened the last game I played, or I ran, I should say. The cleric fell because she failed her check. Yeah, Kira was not happy with me. It was the first play. It was her first ever losing a character too. She had never lost a character before.
It used to happen at some point.
And I didn't kill it. She did.
O'Toole's observation is that Murphy was an optimist. I do agree to some extent about when a skill check should be required to determine pass or fail. I don't think it should be an all the time thing. Like, for example, like climbing a ladder, you just climb the ladder. Scaling a 5-foot wall or a 6-foot wall, okay, yeah, sure, you're just gonna do it. I'm not gonna even bother with the skill check. However, I might use a skill check in this manner. If a person is of a short race, such as a dwarf, a halfling, a gnome, any of the smaller folk races, I'm going to probably call for a skill check for a climb check, let's say, against a ladder built for a human. And that isn't just to say that they're not going to be able to climb it. They'll be able to climb it just fine. It's how much time does it take them to climb the ladder? Yeah, sure, they'll make it the 10 feet up the ladder. That's fine. I have no problem saying, yeah, you made it. It just took you a little longer. It took your entire turn to go up that ladder. rather than the human taking only like half their turn to go up the ladder because it was built for a person of that size or that stature. Now, in a mystery-esque game, I'm not going to call for perception because assuming that the players are there, they're all like gumshoe detectives, or at least one of them is. I'm not going to call. Yeah, or someone who's meant to be a investigator type. I'm not going to ask for a skill check in that room. If there is a clue there, presumably they say, "I am looking for clues." When they do that, I say, okay, great. I'm glad you said that you're looking for clues. Here's your clue. And I'm going to just give them the thing that they were looking for to advance the story or advance the plot, advance the game. If I lock it behind a skill check, that means they could fail. If they can fail, that means the game comes to a grinding ass halt, and that's not fun for anyone. So don't lock important things that advance the play, advance the player's ability to explore the game. Don't lock it behind a skill check. Only lock things behind a skill check that can be detrimental to the players, or the character rather, in some meaningful way. And only, I'm not going to say I want like 20 skill checks in an hour. I'm probably going to want one in an hour. Failing forward does happen. As a matter of fact, Index Card RPG has a mechanic where if you fail a check of some kind, the next time you try it, it's easy or 3 easier on the die roll. Now, Crafty does have a follow-up question. Who should ask for the skill check?
Before we get to, I just wanted to declare, I was just curious, would you do the same thing with secret doors?
So secret doors, depending on the scenario. So if it is an investigator type of game or it's a mystery game, and there is one person there who is an investigator, is trained to look for these things, likely I'm going to say, okay, you search the room, it takes you about 20 minutes. You come across a hollow spot in one of the walls. It sounds different than the others because you're looking for it, or you see dust moving in such a way that could signal a hidden door of some kind. I might just give that to the investigator. Huh?
Yeah, scrape lines on the floor. Yeah.
Because again, that person is going to be trained to look for those kinds of things. Now, am I going to just give the answer away to a game that's not built for mystery, not built with an investigator? Maybe not. But at the same time, I'm not going to stall the game on purpose behind a skill check. It's not fun for the players to go, well, because our dice aren't hot tonight, we're not succeeding, we're not moving forward. And then again, that's just not fun for anyone. So Crafty does have a follow-up to this question. Who should ask for the skill check? He knows the answer, but he wants it to be said. I'm going to start this one with Baron. Who gets to ask for the skill check?
My puppies.
Okay.
I want to hear that. No. I want to hear that.
No, the person who is running the game, either this whatever you prefer to call them, the storyteller, the DM, the big guy, the guy that you have to bring treats to in order to level up. The man who definitely will accept bribes to further your plot of your character. I think that's about it.
Shadow, anything to add to that?
Nothing whatsoever. Crafty is right. Baron is right. That is how it goes. If the player, you need to break your players of that habit and remind them that's not how it works. I'll ask for the skill checks when they're needed. If you are stumped, however, and you would like to maybe get something like a skill check or something like that, maybe just literally say I'm stumped. I'm drawing a blank. Something like that. Be subtle, because subtlety, believe it or not, goes a long way. And it keeps everybody in character instead of on the character sheet.
Yeah. The obvious, the answer is obvious. It's the game master, the storyteller, the dungeon master, whatever title you want to, put onto the person who facilitates the game. They're the ones who need to be asking for the skill checks. Now, I have had, and it does happen in games where the players go, "Hey, I'm really stumped. Can this be a skill check?" And I might go, "Okay, fine. We'll handle it with a skill check. But what I want you to work on for the next game is, thinking outside the box more." So I might, say something like that. But I have had players ask for skill checks when they themselves are stumped and have no way of moving forward. And then Crafty does say, unless you fail forward, what's that?
The other thing is that you can also, with the skill checks, you can also, as the facilitator, especially if you have a newer player at the table, also help them understand the system maybe a little bit better in order to help them bring them more into the game too. So, the skills don't necessarily have to be something that is a pass, go, win, fail type thing. It could also be a way to mechanically help the new player who maybe hasn't played that system, or hasn't, who's actually new to the hobby, to actually help them acclimate them into the system or into the hobby also.
Yeah. Crafty does mention, unless you fail forward. So Index Card RPG, as I already said, has this kind of mechanic built into it where if you fail at something, it's easier the next time you attempt it. That is, one method. And he does say, it advances, but at a cost. That cost can be just about anything. Like, okay, you failed to catch the guy, but you have a new clue. Or you failed your tumble check to get through a trap, but you do take damage, but you learn something critical or key about that thing. So failing forward is always a great option. And Marhawkman says, there can be, checks can be degrees of success. I think that's kind of going back to the halfling climbing a human-sized ladder. Bo, I only call for skill check when it affects PC's health, wealth, friends, reputation, or equipment. That's that's a great way to handle that too. Of course, bribing the game master by watching their card to go up a level. Or if PC stands to gain or lose allies, information, new abilities, social standing. Yep, those are all great times to roll a skill check. Typically diplomacy of some kind.
Right, but when it comes to any skill that's verbal, I really want it to be verbal and not just a roll. I mean, unless it's like a new player or someone who's just not good at it, I really want them to try to really, at least tell me what, maybe not how, or maybe how they say what they're trying to accomplish, whether it be diplomacy, intimidation, bribery, something like that. This is a game of words, and what better way to, exercise those vocal cords, as it were, to say as much as possible when you're trying to do something that literally is, wordy. I just hated the idea of just, you roll and okay, you bribed them, or you got, you accomplished what you were trying to accomplish, when if you had, spoken it, you might have given that varying degree of success a lot more credence by what you said than by the number you rolled. If you're really good at it, you deserve, a good pat on the back from the rest of the party. It's like, damn, that was perfect, Or if, you can't, then, at least you tried, and if you don't try, you won't get better.
Yeah. We ready for the next question?
Absolutely.
Awesome. This one comes from Mar Hockman. What are good ways for DMs to limit flying characters? Not something as absolute as no flying, but more ways to prevent it from being overpowered. Baron, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Well, there's a couple of things. Number one, terrain. Terrain is a great way to limit the characters flying. So, if they're in a cave that's only 6 foot tall, flying is nonsense. Isn't gonna matter, even if it's like a 10-foot tall. Okay, they're going to be about 4, maybe 3-4 foot above, where most of the monsters are going to be able to hit them. The flying is going to be pretty much a non sequitur there. Bruce actually brings up my second one, weather. Weather is another great determination, because it's hard as hell to maintain a fly spell or a fly effect when it's extremely windy, when it is, you've got sleet, snow, wind, hail, all kinds of weather conditions can impede them and just make it. The third one that comes to mind when I'm thinking of this, and because typically the flying is a magical effect, anti-magic fields. which is a double-edged sword, but it is an equal opportunity gotcha, for the simple fact of not only does it get the person flying, it gets the person not flying, and it also gets your baddies. So I mean, it's one of those things that if you do deploy that, it could be detrimental to how you scale that encounter.
Okay. What about you,
Those are
Cheddar?
my 3.
I don't. I can't think of a better way to show that I can't handle the situation by letting the players obviously know that I can't handle the situation. First, I've given them the ability to fly, and now I'm going to mess with it because I can't handle it. One, don't let them fly if you don't want them to fly. Okay, don't put in potions or spells. None of that. They're not available. If you can't handle it, wait until you are. But once you've given it out, unless it's the very first time they've flown and they're doing the greatest American hero thing, and you want the comic relief and you want them to fly into a bush or a kite-eating tree, fine, cool. Get that out of the way, because the players, if you're a wizard and you get the spell fly, you're not going to just wait until the first time you need it. You're going to go find a nice open field with some haystacks, and you're going to practice. If you don't, you're kind of an idiot. You've got the fly spell. You're a freaking wizard. Yeah, you're going to practice. Just like you practice with the magic missile, aiming at the frying pan or whatever in your master's, lair or what have you. If I don't, now Baron does bring up a good point. If the players are going to, it's the middle of a freaking rainstorm and they're going to try and fly to go do something, then there's going to be some minuses and things like that. You can always, throw the difficulties in there because of the situation. But if it's a clear blue day, clear blue sky, and there's nothing going on, and they just want to fly over, and do some reconnaissance, I might throw a wandering, flying monster or creature to mess with them. But, I don't want to ever give the players the impression that I might give you something, but I don't really want you to have it because I rolled randomly, and behind the screen I can't just re-roll it or figure out some way to just not, if you have a problem with anything, whether it's flying or super speed or something like that, and you don't like it, don't put it in your game. But once you've put it in the game, you're kind of obligated to be fair about it. And it just sounds like, either unfairness or unpreparedness. Now, every book has got its section on flying. Bone up on it, learn it, and incorporate it, because it'll only help you in the reverse when you're throwing those flying monsters at the party, whether it's harpies or a dragon. You better know their maneuver rate, their maneuverability, all that, all the rules that go with it. It's going to work both ways. You're going to need to know it. And if you say, well, you can't fly, well, then you're also, not practicing running the flying monster. So be fair and work it out. Just, learn the rules so that you're as confident with flying as you are with someone opening up a locked door with the thieving abilities.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting that one, Bruce.
I do generally agree. If flying is a problem for your table, you could say just no to flying characters or races that have flight at level 1. However, there are other things you can do. One of them was actually said earlier. That's something I'm going to bring up as well. Make flight expensive. If you wear armor, breastplate, or any chunks of metal on your body, it's going to take specially equipped armor, specially made armor, to be able to fit someone who actually has natural wings. It's going to be, time and a half the cost of normal equipment. And that doesn't sound like much, but at first level, that could eat up someone's budget pretty quick. And I've had a lot of players who played flying characters just so they can get around the terrain, to basically have a terrain advantage. And that's someone who's playing the mechanics of the game, not just, and playing their sheet, not so much their character. I myself have had characters who fly, but I had thematic reasons why my character flew. I played a warlock in 3.0, or rather 3.5 D&D that had fell flight, and his entire thing was every morning he woke up, he felt disgusted that he was touching the ground, so he'd activate fell flight and never touch the ground for the rest of the day. But he came from a place where he saw his entire people saw the ground dwellers as beneath them. So to him, his entire lifetime, was spent up in the clouds, off the ground. So to re-feel that, or get that feeling back, he used fell flight every morning. As soon as he woke up, he would use fell flight, take a shower or take a bath, because he would want to get the filth of the land off of him. Now, did I use the flight to mechanical advantage? Yes, I did. Did the game master have a problem with it? No, he had answers for my flight. Mostly in the form of ballistas, catapults, arrows, spells, any type of ranged attack my character would soak. It was rather unpleasant at times. But that's the price. My price was, I am a target. I am visible. I am high in the air. So I'm going to, get a lot of individuals who are going to be targeting me. I am the flying distraction. But that was also how we used the character, how the group used the character was, I am a distraction. So that was, it was a fun character to play. And again, the game master did a great job in not limiting my ability to use it. Unless there were times where he would go, oh yeah, by the way, because your flight ability is magic based, I'm going, you're now going into an anti-magic field. You're going to have to touch the ground. Again, the character felt rather unpleasant doing that. So, anything else to say upon flying characters before we move on to the next one? I'm going to make my way through chat. No? Okay. I'm going to...
Sorry, I was reading chat. I'm sorry, what did you say?
Oh, did you have anything else to add on to flying before we move on to the next one?
No, just if you don't like it, don't allow it. And if you allow it, let them have some fun with it, for Christ's sake. Stop being, stingy bastards. If the characters want to fly, let them have that moment in the freaking sun. Eventually it's going to bite them in the ass. But, to constantly go after it. And, I can think of like 4 times in my entire gaming career that I used anti-magic on the players. You know, um, it's just to get somebody to keep somebody from freaking flying.
Hmm.
Just
I'm
no
going
bueno.
to I'm going to disagree with this statement here. Just don't let it break the game. No, let the players break the game, because what's fair for the players is fair for you. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. So if your players want to use, if every one of your characters wants the ability to fly, okay, the answer can be yes. We now move into 3D combat in space, where they don't have cover bonuses. They're going to be in an area where, well, suddenly there is no hiding from the enemy arrows. You are prime open targets, and gravity, once gravity reasserts itself by some means, gravity hurts when you hit the ground from 300 feet up. So yeah, I would say let the players start breaking the game, but what's fair for them is fair for you. But don't be a complete adversarial game master. I'm not advocating for adversarial play. Just remind them that just because they can do it, their enemies can also do it.
Yeah, and don't forget that there are a lot of different adversaries that can fly too. So that
Strix.
That opens up. A couple of them were put in the chat here.
Wait. Bring that one back.
Yeah.
Strix,
you've got you have rocks that you can use. Of course, everyone's favorite, dragons. There are a lot of things that are built for the flying that it will open up a whole, as Jade mentioned, a whole nother dimension to the actual gaming, where, oh, well, I'm going to fire a fireball at that. Well, you know what? You may only catch one thing in that fireball. And it may have the ability to dodge it and not take any damage because, oh, well, it's in the air. It just tucks its wings as a reaction or something. So the thing is that typically with most flying in a game, there is a set way that it works. But the NPCs, mobs, whatever you want to call them, don't necessarily have to subscribe to that exact same mechanic for flying, just because of the way that those are made and in the game, and the ability to do things.
So for those of you who are interested in having flying at your table, there is a product that for minis that might help you, and this is Dr. You probably can't read that. It is Dr. Wizard's patented elevation indicator. And it's got some black bands on it and whatnot, and you can set the elevation multiplier and whatnot. I use these things for when my players are flying or when my enemies are flying. I can set tens of elevations and then, times 1, times 10, times 0.5, whatever the case might be. So I do encourage flight in my games because I think 3D combat can be fun. Some of my players don't like to think in 3D, and it gets pretty hard for them. So, but that's fine. Let's see. I'm gonna make my way through chat again, and then we'll move on to the next question. Yeah, okay. Welcome back, Fleety. Rocks grab a character, then plow through one. Rock. Yeah. Ouch. Sabragan, okay. And yeah, definitely revisit this list in the future for other game masters as well. Okay, so this next one is also a Mar Hawkman questions. I hit back by accident. Okay, so this actually, we don't know who the originator of this question is, and this is multi-classing. Multiclassing, do you use it? Is it optional or part of your game? Do you allow it? How does it affect your game for good or bad? So, Shadow, I'm going to start with you on this one. What do you use multiclassing?
Absolutely. I love it. I'll continue to use it. I'll even throw it in systems that don't allow it. It's really simple. I got a question for everybody out there. How many jobs have you had in your lifetime? Can you still do all of them today? Is there any penalty whenever you try to do one of your old professions, other than maybe relearning a little bit of the changes that have taken place in that profession since you did that whatever that job was? Probably not. If you were a lumberjack and you go do something else that's not entirely sedate, where you're now an office job and you go back to lumberjacking, well, you still know how to do it. You're still probably 90%, 80% as good as you used to be, unless age is creeping up on you or something like that. I've had a lot of jobs in my life, and I can do just about every one of them except, maybe, running after people, because, I'm 50 now and not 20 like I was back then. But unless it's an age thing that's getting in the way, and how do we do age things in these games? We lower your stats by a couple of points for age. And okay, well, now that result is just less, but it's not gone completely, right? So, I like it. I'm proud of the fact that I've had enough jobs that have allowed me to learn a lot of different cool things. And, I'm glad I don't have to use a lot of those skills, talents, abilities, whatever you want to call them. I'm grateful, to be brutally honest, but I'm glad I have them in a pinch. If I ever need to, get into my car and no one's looking and I lost the keys or left the keys in there, I'm glad I've got a couple of tricks up my sleeve, or something like that. There's other things I could use as examples, but for brevity and other reasons, I'm not gonna. But think about your own lives. How many, of those jobs you had when you were younger that, if you went back to them now, you'd be like the best at it. You know what I mean? Because you've learned other skills that you can now tackle on top of those. I know a lot of people don't like it, and I think certain game systems sort of took it to the extreme that I would, and made it to where if you don't multi-class, you're kind of not playing properly, and you're not taking advantage of the mechanics. There is a happy medium in there. Just find what works, and again, just make it your own if you can. And if people are abusing it, well, then you may have to revisit it.
Oh, I totally
What about
disagree.
you,
Let them
Baron?
I'm gonna mirror what Jade said earlier with that. Let them abuse it, because then you can abuse it.
No, I thought you were going to disagree with the previous part. Like, what?
No. The abusing part. Yeah. Oh, don't revisit it, because then you get. Sometimes it can be fun to and this isn't being one of those game masters, and you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes the player characters get very, very cocky, because they think, oh well, I have done a whole bunch of stuff, and I've multi-classed, and I've set everything perfectly in my character. And I'm going to point to Jade at this when I say this. Or he's built a sheet going from first level to 45th level with every single skill, every single advancement, every single thing. And then when they start getting into the part where, oh yeah, the meat and potatoes, you can actually just kind of pivot away from how that build is actually going to be effective in that campaign, which totally destroys exactly what they had in mind. And I've actually seen this, a game master, Bruce, do this to Jade several times. And it was hilarious. But, it was not done out of malicious. It's just the way that,
You can't prove that.
but I can't disprove it either. So the but the thing is that the multi-classing is, I would say yes, you can definitely use it in the game as long as it makes sense for your game. A game like Traveler is not going to really make sense. You may pick up some skills.
Yeah, it doesn't work that
way. Yeah, let me finish. You may be a soldier, and you may pick up maybe some seneschal skills from the seneschal. You're not going to be as good as the seneschal at it, but you're going to be able to muddle your way through. In that type of situation, I would say yes. I would actually make it more of, instead of a multi-classes, for more of a skills side of it. To you have to have someone there to teach you how to do it. You're not going to be able to just walk in and be like, "Oh, I know how to do this now," and everything and whatnot. And yeah, because I took this skill in this class. I know how to do this. No, you need someone who is going to teach you how to set and how to actually start down the path, how to put one foot in front of the other, how to incorporate maybe your current skill set into this. That's kind of like my thing. You talk about several jobs. You don't walk into a job knowing how to do that job. You have to be trained, and before you can become proficient with that job, it's going to take time. You're going to have that part of your training, which is you're not going to know what the hell you're doing. You're going to be muddling through, and then all of a sudden you have this epiphany, or what I like to call the aha moment, where everything just clicks and you're like, holy shit, there we go. This is how this works. I got it now. And that's kind of how I look at it, is more of, you have to have someone be able to sit down, and you have to be able to take the time. And is the story going to allow you the time in order to do that? Are the timelines that are in place? Because there are GMs that use the timeline settings. I know Max has talked about it. Jade's talked about it. Yes, you can pull yourself out for a month, but there are still things in the world that are going to be happening, and there are still things that, regardless if you're there to execute and to stop things or to help things move forward, that month that you take to train for that, how is that going to totally skew the entirety of the timeline? You just don't know.
Yeah, so I do use multi-classing. When I'm running a 3.0, 3.5 Pathfinder game, I will allow multi-classing. But I should say I used to. I'm not really playing 3.x Pathfinder anymore. I've moved on to other game systems. And some of them are classless systems, so they don't really have the multi-classing, so to say. They have abilities that are very structured or very oriented towards one path. So you can take the concept of multi-classing into multi-pathing, so to say. And Shadow is right on this aspect. Like, how many jobs have you held in your lifetime? And do you still retain any of the skills that you learned from that job? I know I have retained several of the skills I've learned from the various jobs I've had. That being said, does that make me a more well-rounded person? Well, yeah, because I get to use those skills from, let's say, the paving job I did, because I was a part of a paving crew for a long time. Or I shouldn't say a long time. 3 years was a rather short time in retrospect. But I used my paving knowledge at my most current job. And that's because I had knowledge of how parking lots and whatnot are paved, and I was able to provide the company I work for drawings and assessments on what they needed to complete the work. That's a very good real life example of multi-classing. And honestly, I think most characters should be a multi-class of something. Everyone needs to start somewhere. Like, does your fighter need to be a multi-classed rogue to be effective? No. Can they be a multi-classed, I don't know, blacksmith or some other like crafting type? Yeah, because that'll actually help them. They'll be able to repair their armor. They'll be able to sell equipment and make a tidy profit. And then, that character, when they retire, they've got skills to fall back onto. So yeah, I do agree that multi-classing should be part of a game to some extent. And how it's used, it should be more important rather than if it's min-max capabilities. I will admit, as a former min-maxing McMurder hobo, because that's what I was in my younger years, I abused the hell out of multi-classing, and I'm fairly certain several of my game masters would rather I'd not sit down at the table or not show up at the table that evening because of how convoluted I'd made the characters in ability to do stuff. So use allow multi-classing, but have a good conversation with your players and make sure that they know that their character kind of needs to make sense, or if they're going to pursue a new class, a new path, that it's going to take time, that they're not just going to be able to instantly level up into it. They're going to have to get the ball rolling on it sooner rather than later.
I when I heard about how class changing is done in some of the games lately, my head exploded. You mean I can go from a barbarian to a magic user, like a wizard, at that quick? How?
Yeah,
how?
Actually, you can.
Yeah, I that'll never happen in my games. If you try to, do something that was, completely different than what you did before, it's going to take you probably years. In the old days, it did. If you went from, depending on the profession, unless you became a thief, which you could do overnight, apparently, every other profession took many years just to get to first level because you had to do all the crap. Now, maybe it would take less years than it would take a child, from adolescence to first level, because you're mature and, whatever, but it's still going to take some years. If you were a fighter and now you want to become a first level wizard, say goodbye to the next 10 years of your life. Sorry, that's it. 10 years minimum, depending on your intelligence. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So, I mean, make it a cost to the players. Don't just say, oh yeah, you can multi-class whenever. Let's see here. Sorry, reading through chat. I'm trying to get caught up. Well, yeah. Let's see here.
No,
we're all still here.
No, when I go from upstairs to downstairs, I kill the camera and the mic. Never know what other people in the house are doing.
Sure. Okay. Like I said, I'm just trying to get caught up on chat real quick. Not going to lie, loved multi-classing 3.5. Prestige class as well. Yeah, I do really enjoy the prestige classes in 3.0 or 3.x. And that's because they offer unique path or life choices for the character. They're very niche, and you can explore a lot of different niche things with prestige classes. Pathfinder 1E kind of did away with prestige classes. Like, you don't need to take prestige classes. There are archetypes for almost everything a prestige class can do. At that point, prestige classes became exceptionally niche. Yeah, you're right. Min-maxing McMurder Hobo can be an excellent selling point to entice a new player to the game. Yeah.
You will pay for it later, though.
You will. I paid for it. They must tell me the start of the game, choosing a main class. Okay. I normally do this as well. Like Baron said, I have a spreadsheet that auto calcs everything. It was Hero Labs 10 years before Hero Labs became a thing. I would already just have all the math and everything, all already done. Anytime we leveled up, I just kind of hit the button, level up, and it reset all my stats to what they needed to be. But I did give my builds over to the game master. Like, hey, this is my path. This is the path I'm planning on. Do you foresee any problems with this? And they would say yes, no, maybe, or hey, keep around this area. Keep your options open. Or I just don't allow those classes type thing.
I like part of what Crafty said. However, I've been in too many games where things happen and a player really to move the story along. Sometimes it's a good idea for the character to change, because something unexpected happened. So then I'm a little more lenient. It's nice to, like when someone says, I want to run a bard in AD&D. Well, okay, I know you're going to go fighter, then you're going to go thief, then you're going to go bard. But if you were a thief and you've done a bunch of thieving, maybe you're even 10th level and you're still kind of young and you want to broaden your horizons, why not? Maybe pick up actual fighting, or maybe you find religion, or you want to be a magic user so you can be an even better thief, because an invisible thief or a flying thief who doesn't have to climb, he can just land on the roof and go in through the window kind of thing. Sometimes it makes sense for the character to change professions.
Okay, so Crafty says, at Gatekeepers, hello. What people fail to do in 5e is check the prerequisites. Oh, yes, always check your prerequisites for your classes. PCs need to qualify for both the class you are coming out of and the class you're going into. Everyone skips the first part. Yeah, always make sure that you are the path that you're on is the path. You have to make sure that you meet all the qualifications for things. And that takes time, and or certain levels or certain requirements. Always meet those. And dungeon masters enforce the requirements. Don't just let your players run hog wild. Look at the requirements and know the classes that they want to go into, and definitely enforce the requirements.
And even if they just barely make it, maybe it's not the right decision. If you've got a fighter with an 18 intelligence, going into being a magic user is a great idea. But if you're running a fighter with a 9 or a 12, yeah, you'll get in, but how far will you go?
Yeah. DCC is an S tier game. I have yet to play DCC, but I have heard a lot of really great things for it. Like Max says a lot, dwarves can be wizards. Race is class. If your games don't have certain things, then they shouldn't have them. Have the restrictions and drive creativity. Yeah. Oh yeah, can't. Yeah, dwarves can't be wizards. Yeah. I believe that's OD&D, AD&D, or second ed. Like I said, I'm just making my way through chat.
First and second, yeah.
I think people skip that because it's not fun. Very well could be. I honestly, the only 5e I've touched has been Connell's game for Table Breakers. I haven't really touched the system beyond that. I'm sure it's a great system. I'm sure a lot of people have had fun with it or will still have fun with it. We'll get into that later. Baron, anything else to add on to multi-classing?
Nope.
Okay, then. We'll move on to the next one. Battle maps. Battle maps. When are and aren't they useful? Pros and cons to them. Again, this is also unknown. Table versus VTT and alternatives to standard battle maps. So, Baron, I'm going to start with you on this one. Battle maps. Do you use them? Do you not use them?
Sometimes. It depends
Okay.
on the situation. I usually do 90%, I would say, theater of the mind. But if there's typically I will use a battle map for like the big bad boss fight. Uh, just for the simple fact of typically when you have a big bad boss fight, there are a lot of moving parts, and it's not necessarily for the player's benefit. It's more for my benefit because I want to make sure that I'm running them according to the mechanics that I have set up. So if he is going to have, a bunch of minions, whatnot, I want to make sure that I don't forget to move them or have them take their actions. Uh, or and also for also it can help for them to visualize what is going on. A lot of times you can for the most part, you know, explain, oh, you're 10 foot from this person, you move up, you swing, you hit, blah blah blah. That it gets to be, you can do that very easily and do it more of the theater of the mind by definitely explaining it. But there are times when you want to bring that back to the, well, we need a visualization here just because there's a lot of moving parts, especially if some of your players decide that they need all the minions all the time. Then to keep not only the big bad straight, but also so you can keep track of their minions to make sure that they're not you know overextending, etc. So then it's one of those, it's a double-edged sword with using or not using. It depends on what you are truly comfortable with. uh the and a lot of times when I do use a battle map, I'll draw it out, but I will tell them that either the squares are not to scale, because then as Crafty put in there, because people are paying too much attention to the how many squares are between, and and whatnot, and then at that point it winds up being, truthfully, I have tinkered with the idea that Bruce has thrown out a few times of, well, it's done in inches or in centimeters or whatever unit you wish to use for movement, etc. That's what you do, and you have to use a ruler or a tape measure or something along those lines to move from point A to point B. That I've done that too. It's all depends on what exactly you decide that you want to run it. If you are doing more of a online type game, VTTs are, or even kind of like what Bruce does with broadcasting the map. It it helps the game master know what that player is doing, especially with if they're not physically at a table where they can pick up and move their own character and or miniature around the table. You can say, Bruce's, little, A through Z and 1 through 20 or 30, whatever he's got on the sides. Having and played a couple of Bruce's online games, that has been a savior because you can say, okay, yeah, move me up by this guy. Okay, well, he moves you up by that guy, but it may not be exactly where you were envisioning your character to go. You can say, okay, yeah, move me to D7, and then boom, you go exactly where you need to be. Or if you're using a VTT, boom, plop them in right where you want to be on that VTT, because a lot of times you can control your own character with it. Uh, I think it depends on the situation, and it also does depend on how you actually play your game. There are some people that are very minis invested and run it with the minis. Some DMs that are very invested in the VTTs, and then there are some that do it completely theater of the mind.
What's up, brother?
But you, Shadow?
Well, for me, it's a double-edged sword. I have literally thousands of dollars worth of scatter terrain, entire dungeon builds that I can take down and rebuild through dungeons and lasers and things like Dwarven Forge. And I'll cover an entire table with a pre-made dungeon and cover up the areas with, the fog of war, so you don't know what's next, etc. And that stuff is great for new and younger players. They just love that crap. I do too. I love painting it, assembling it, building with it. You've seen my channel. We do crafts and terrain and make up new monsters and all that crap. That's a whole different hobby almost. But before, let's say 10 years ago, I did nothing but theater of the mind, and it went smoothly, never a problem. But there have always been situations where I'm like, man, I wish I had a dry erase board right now, or something like that, or graph paper. We didn't have graph paper. We were playing at a park or something like that. There's a time and a place for everything. And sometimes, it's just a matter of when to juggle what. If you're going to use the dry erase board, you're going to go theater of the mind, or you're going to go full blown. I have got a freaking pre-built dungeon that lights up, the torches flicker, it's all electronic. I've got every little piece of scattered terrain, every little treasure chest already set up. It really depends on the whole makeup of the players and the GM and what they want out of the game. It's just, like I said, double-edged sword. You've got to know when to use it, when to not break it out at all. Just leave it in the closet. That's where it's been for a while. We're just going to do theater of the mind, or, for like what Baron said, for a boss fight, placement and his specific movements can mean the difference between a great ending and a total party kill, because your character wasn't in the right place. You thought you were, you weren't, you've just, you've got to learn all the tools, not just, the books and the rules, but you got to know the physicality, what's on the table, where everybody is, all of this stuff you've got to juggle. And it's really, like I said, it's two hobbies in one. If you want to add the other one, cool. Then you better know how to use it and when to use it. If you want to go completely theater of the mind, you're still going to benefit from the old graph paper at the very least back in the old days. That's all we had. There were people with miniatures and dry erase, mats and stuff. Even back in the late 70s, we had some of that stuff. But, even at the game hall that I worked at, that was a luxury. They had the tables already set up with these dry erase, tables, and here's your markers for the day. Return them at the end of your shift, that kind of thing. It's if you can't afford it, don't do it. But if you want to, create a second hobby for yourself, understand that it never ends when it comes to miniatures and terrain and all that stuff. You can literally spend more time working on that second hobby than you are actually, creating the next dungeon or the next town or the world map or all that stuff like that. It's just, like I said, it's a juggling act. And, if you're not good at juggling, don't juggle. If you are, welcome to my world.
Now, when it comes to me for battle maps being useful, they're useful for tactical movement, I will say. But for general, wilderness exploration, I don't tend to use them. I know Bruce loves the hex crawls. Those can be intriguing and fun. I would definitely say if you have never done a hex crawl, do one at least once, and see if it's kind of your thing. But I do, like I said, I do use the grid map. I have made this map specifically, but that's because I'm in a career path that gives me access to CAD-like products. that I can make maps like this. This thing's gonna get noisy in a moment. So yes, I love my battle maps. I will use battle maps, but I've also taken to using digital battle maps more so at my table than at my physical table, than hand-drawn or dry erase. And that's because I have access to a projector. A little cheap, like $100 projector, projecting straight down onto my table surface. One of the things I'm going to be doing with that is basically using like a silver tablecloth, kind of like a silver screen almost, to project the map onto. This allows me to be able to change battle maps quickly without having to have any pre-printed material or have to, wipe away a dry erase and start again, from scratch and take like 10, 15 minutes to draw the map out. So I have moved on to the digital battle maps. And I really only use them during combat. That's really the only time I find them to be of value to my games. And again, it was said earlier that players, when they're looking at the map, they become hyper focused on the hexes. They're not really focused on the interactions that are going on. They're just focused on the hexes or on the grid that's in front of them. And they play their grid. They play the grid and their sheet more so than their character. So once the combat's over, take the map away. Don't focus on it. If you don't want to use battle maps and you want to use just general like zones, I highly recommend zone combat, where you've got close, near, and far as zones. And this kind of simulates close-up tactical combat, and then you've got people who are sitting at near range with archery or long-range combat, and then you've got those who are wielding longbows or wielding spells that can reach long distances out in the backfield. And you can use this or use Ultimate Dungeon Terrain. Now I'm going to promote another channel here that is not affiliated with us. Professor Dungeon Master. It shows how to make this on his channel, and he uses a lazy Susan so you can be able to rotate the terrain. But he makes like a 12 or 14-inch circle and sections off each zone from the center outward in concentric rings. That is totally a way you can do your battle combats. And you don't have to have any maps or anything. You can just get a piece of XPS foam to make your battle map or your zone combats. And as far as VTTs go, because I am in the digital realm of gaming, my projected battle maps for my table can work for VTTs just as well. I've used Owlbear Rodeo. I've used the Index Card RPG specific VTT. I've used Roll20. Out of all of them, I think the easiest one to use that is free is probably Owlbear Rodeo. My second one that I would like to use is probably the Index Card RPG VTT. Again, it's free to use. And then there's Roll20, which can do a lot of really amazing things if you're willing to pay for it and if you're willing to take the time to learn it. Not many people are. All right. So anything further on battle maps? No?
No, I'm good.
Then. We will move on to question number 5. Blazing right through them. Scott, the GM, asks, grandstanding at the table, when is it okay? And when is it just being a table hog? Oop, I just minimized that. I'll bring it right back. There we go. For this one, I'm going to start with you, Shadow.
When is it okay?
Table. Yeah.
It's okay when you have something incredibly important or poignant to say. If you're rallying the troops or getting the townsfolk together to, storm Baron von Frankenstein's castle, something like that. Otherwise, it literally is being a table hog. And I've seen so many people. It's been a while, but in the older days, they could not wait to stand up at the table and start, doing the things and making their speeches at the drop of the hat, the literal, thespians at the table, just trying to get some practice in before their next gig, so to speak. It's a great way to get yourself uninvited for the next game, unless you have a table full of people that are doing that all the time. But for the most part, it's one of the worst cliches about the hobby is the player that won't shut up and tries to take control of everything. I think it partially comes from the old caller, when there used to be a caller for the group, and they would, let the GM know what everybody's doing. And thank God that's no longer a thing, because, it promoted this exact, question. And, we're all done with it. And for the most part, unless you're really good at it and really quick at it, there's just really no need for it every single game, let alone every single turn.
Welcome, Bruce, to the panel.
Sorry I'm
how are
late,
you,
but
sir?
I had things. Good. I'm glad to be here. And I don't know.
Awesome.
I don't know if you wanted my weighing in on tabletop tactical play or not.
Sure, we can back up to that one real quick. Baron, if you'd like to weigh in on Game Master or the grandstanding afterward, if that's all right.
Well, the grandstanding, I look more as like monologuing. And that's what your big bads are really supposed to be doing. They're supposed to give the great big monologue before they bring down hell and fire and brimstone down on the players. And typically I'll go ahead and let them do that. But I will come at it as many of the players wish to come at that grandstanding, big bad is, twink. Oh, you're good. This is my time to monologue, not your time to monologue. Boing. It's one of those type of things that, yes, it is being a table hog, but I think there is a time and place for it, like Shadow said, if you're like riling the troops, or, if you're, pulling the Braveheart type thing, where you're getting ready to go into this great big battle and you're just trying to amp everyone up, and we're gonna destroy them. That type of thing. All right, cool. That's cool, because maybe your class gives an inspiration to them or something, or it, as long as it falls within the character's development and helps to forward that character's, I'm going to use that word that a lot of people hate. I know we've said it a couple times already, but story.
On the
forwarding
Grandmaster,
the story.
do you remember the old movie, the wonderfully classic movie, The Gamers? Remember the scene where the party finds the Bandit King drinking his wine in the middle of the forest while his bandits surround the party, and the elf just shoots him in the neck while he's trying to monologue?
Yes.
And then they have to redo that scene like four different times, because the elf player has to count aloud as he's grandstanding for him to get the speed factor right. And then he lets fly with the arrow, and he still rolls a natural fucking 20.
Yeah.
If that happens,
I'll give my my
it is
response on
fine.
this. I'll give my response on this after you've had a chance to talk about battle maps there, Bruce.
Not really battle maps, okay? You
Okay.
can go with gridded or hex terrain, or you could go with skirmish terrain, like if you've got it set up for like a game of Frostgrave, but you're using the terrain as like 1 inch per 5 feet, like it should be, and you've got everything set up, but the players are playing kind of blind. And whenever they're declaring their move action and what they're doing, I want to move over there. Well, they can't get this until they make their declaration of what they're doing. Can't move until you've made the declaration. And then, all right, you have a 30-foot movement rate, 6 inches from here to there, move character fig. And if they try to scoot it more than a quarter inch extra, no, back here to the 6-inch mark. But you, the tactical terrain is something you want to break out, and you'll be seeing me do this more and more because I like using rough terrain or hex terrain during exploration phases, and I really like just breaking out tactical stuff whenever there's something going on directly in front of the players. If you have an archery duel going on between your archer character and a bunch of other dicks in the woods or something, just have that character in the center of the scene, because he's not going to have like a police squad showdown, like 2 garbage cans 15 foot apart and they're shooting each other with derringers. No, his targets are like 40 inches to 70 inches off the board. So without the battle maps, you don't have a reason for the miniatures. You're right. But you can, what you want to do if you're streaming that, just put the camera down and angle it to where it's looking at all the figs for the players. That way we can kind of get an idea of who's there in the party, what are they doing. But whenever it comes time to like doing exploration work, start mapping it out on a piece of I use index cards all the time. I love index cards, 5.5 by 8 inch. And you start drawing things out. But when it gets to tactical play, they're coming your way. And you wait like 30 or 40 seconds and let the players declare what they're doing. And then you just set the terrain up, draw the map out, or put down the figures and the various models and such, and roll your initiative. But at that time, up until that time, try to move it kind of fast, because it should feel like, hey, you've got to make a decision now. It's go time. And you don't repeat it's go time 17 or 18 times. You say it once, and then you look at the players and say, roll for initiative. And that's it. That's how you get going. The battle maps are there for basically tactical work, anything close range, like less than 100 feet. Because if you're doing a grand-ass battle map where you've got a giant dungeon etched out, drawn out, you got the figurines out, you've got your Dwarven Forge caverns out there, you can't really appreciate that. You can in person, but on a camera, especially if you're looking at it on your phone or tablet, really can't appreciate that. Wow, that's pretty big. I've got a 5-inch screen. Whoopee. Yeah, this is boring as hell. They're pushing around pixels. No, you want to do battle mat stuff for like less than 100 feet. You know, the only other time you do that is if, you know, you turn off the camera and you're doing actual like Warhammer game or even better, War Machine or Hordes.
Okay.
Did I miss anything?
No, I think you got it. So Scott actually just joined us in chat. Welcome, Scott. So
Hey,
the
Scott.
whole grandstanding question, and Charlotte asks, what do you mean by grandstanding? Is it really getting into role play or, you know, dancing after scoring crit? It's kind of both. I've actually had the fortune of being at this person's table. Great game master, if I might say so myself. But the grandstanding thing, and I'm guilty of this, is when I am taking up a lot of time. Now, by a lot of time, I mean I take 15-minute turns, not in combat, but in just role play. That is being a table hog. That is grandstanding, so to say, when you are, you know, trying, you know, don't get me wrong, like, have fun with your characters, and game masters, if your players are really having fun, really getting into their characters, you know, encourage them, but move the scene from that person's like, hey, I need you to stop for a moment, or set it like a little sand glass timer or hourglass timer that's like for 5 minutes or something. All right, I'm going to give you 5 minutes. What are you doing? How are you expand upon what you're doing here, and then hold that thought when I say hold that thought. So I know I am guilty of this, but I've also had to deal with this at my own tables, where a player will just be, you know, hogging all of the screen time, basically all of the camera time, really getting into their role, their character and everything. And I'd be like, okay, that's, I'm really, really enjoying this vibe, but I'm going to ask the next person what they would like to do, while you're doing this. I'm going to tell you that this is going to take X amount of time to get through for your scene. And then I'll move to the next person. In this amount of time, what are you doing? And I'll let them go for however long, I'm going to try to keep the segments, for each character or each person broken up evenly. And that's why I actually have sand timers now, is so I can actually say, okay, you got 5 minutes. What are you doing? Or I can set an entire one scene timer of like, say, 30 minutes. All right, this scene's going to take about 30 minutes. What do we do? And I'm going to go in turn order. And by turn order, I mean around the table, clockwise, counterclockwise, whatever the case might be. So then the other aspect, if your players don't listen to never split the party rule, you could probably use it. Maybe have some members battling an assassin while the table hog is giving a speech. Absolutely. So while your table hog or your grandstander is being very diplomatic, and sometimes the more wordy or verbose players will be the grandstanders, the table hogs. They're going to probably be the ones talking with nobility or leadership of some kind. And they're going to take really long turns because they're trying to work out diplomatic deals. It's kind of like a game of diplomacy while at the table. Have your other players who aren't into the whole dialogue aspect go do something else, something entirely different, fending off or thwarting attacks on the diplomats. And then Scott's response, I try to clamp down on that and give everyone a chance, but it is their times when it's okay. Bruce, I don't think, have you expanded upon grandstanding yet?
Not really, but we talked about the Gamers movie where the archer popped off the Bandit King. Just be fair. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. I would say, definitely be fair with the amount of time that's given to the players. Like, if you've got a group of players who are just there for combat or just there for, the action sequences, try to make the action sequence last about as long as the grandstander's turn. And vice versa. If everyone's gone around the table and it gets back to the grandstander's turn, give them like 5 minutes to do their thing, and then say, okay, in this 5 minutes, I need everyone over here who's active in this action sequence to be thinking about what you're going to be doing. And when I get to your turn, I want to know what you're doing, how you're doing it. Hugging the table with a certain gray elf. Yes. That was a character that he played in my table. And he was a very verbose individual. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're really into the role playing aspect of the characters and really get into your character, go for it. Have fun with it. And game masters, let your players have fun with their characters. Like, that's kind of why they're there. So, anyone else on the grandstand? No? All right, then we will move on to slide number 6. Now, slide number 6, I'm going to forewarn you. We will get to that in just a second. I'm actually going to go back to the comments because the slide number 6 is a hot button topic right now. And we've got about 40 some odd minutes left in the night. So I'm going to get to that, but I'm going to get to this starred comment from Bo Paints Minis, who unfortunately is left for the evening to go to class. I always support those who want to further their education. Yeah, good for you. And they say, if you were a brand new gamer, which game would you play? Bruce, I'm going to start this one with you.
Star Wars D6. I'm gonna go to the Fantasy Flight Games re-release that came out 2 Christmases ago. You can still find it at Amazon and eBay, a little bit more than what it was originally, but it's not bad. It's worth it. It's really worth it. And if there's anything else, if you want to play in the Star Wars universe, if you want to feel like John Williams is scoring the actions at your table, play West End Games Star Wars D6. There's not a better game out there to give you amazing sci-fi adventure, in my opinion. I think it works out perfectly. If you want to play a Jedi-focused campaign, if you want to do Tramp Freighters, thanks to Mark Reinhagen and his amazing Galaxy Guide, if you want to kind of pirouette and follow in the shadow of the Empire book and Dash Rendar's work, if you want to have more like adventures that are from the original West End games, and those really are worth about $20 to $30 nowadays because they're so well written. I'm just going to say you cannot find a better use of the Star Wars license. No matter what anybody says about Saga, they didn't play D6. When they play D6, they're like, okay, I get it.
Baron.
That's actually, kind of an odd question, and truthfully, and not to placate to our host here, but I would actually say if you're going to start them out on something, just from what I've played in the past, and also from what I have, played recently, I would actually say Index Card RPG, just because it is a very rules light system. It gives you all the flavor of getting into the RPGs. And I think that is a very, very light and fluffy, I guess, kind of RPG, rules light RPG to actually get new players kind of going. And plus you can do pretty much any genre in it.
Well, thanks for stopping by, Scott.
Be well, Scott.
All right. What about you, Shadow? If a brand new gamer at your table, what would you play?
Honestly, well, I like Baron's answer because it is actually a very good answer. Not because we all played it and had a blast. Sorry, Bruce, but Star Wars is dead to me. That's why my answer would be Traveler. You can play any. You could, with some work, you could literally play any game. But what I like about Traveler the most is that there's basically, after you've made up your characters, it's one mechanic. I'm talking Traveler Mongoose 2nd edition. You have one mechanic. You roll. You've got a target number. You beat it on 2 dice and move on. Let's actually do some role playing instead of worrying about numbers and rules and mechanics and all that crap. It could just be done faster and quicker and easier with the simple mechanic that is beat the target number. You get a couple of bonuses to add to it, and it's over and done with as quick as possible. The characters, I love the character generation system where you roll up your character and you decide when you're done rolling up your character by going through the life path system, and the death of the character is no longer a thing when you're rolling up your character. You might get maimed and cyberized because of some bad rolls, but you won't actually die and waste 2 hours of your life rolling up a character.
That's a lie.
In Mongoose 2nd?
Well, if you're playing the only Traveler that exists, which is 1st edition, yes, you will die during character creation.
Well, that's why I prefaced it with Mongoose 2nd edition, because I own all of I own every version of Traveler except GURPS, and between 1st and 2nd Mongoose, they took out the you died mechanism because that was just kind of dumb. Unless you enjoy rolling up characters and watching them die before they ever actually see combat, cool. But it was a product of its time back in the 70s. I really enjoyed everything about the entire thing that is Traveler, making up your own worlds as a GM and doing everything yourself from the ground up, including the NPCs and the player characters, really just with a very little effort, you come up with characters that can be literally anything you want, from the farm boy to the veteran smuggler, all the way up to the Jedi Knight, in age and experience, and roll with any character you want, and you don't all have to be the zero first level character at the beginning of the game, and there's none of the endorphin rush, junkies out there waiting for their next level and their next bump in power and hit points and all that crap. That doesn't even exist. You can focus on the game and playing the character instead of constantly seeking after the next high that is going up a level, or things like that just let me make up a cool character and run with it, and never have to think about leveling up again, and never have that be the motivation for why you're doing stuff, because you have the opportunity to make any character you want. You want to be a badass ex Black Ops guy, and now you're actually going to play the character. Cool. You're not going to get a whole lot better. You're done. You did that stuff. Now it's time to play. How about you, Jay?
Crafty asks. Crafty asks you a question. Why is Star Wars dead to you, Shadow?
Well, because the first three movies that were made were great, other than the last half of Return of the Jedi. The next three movies were pretty much crap. I fell asleep through two of the last three movies, and I don't like the direction it went. And if I was going to play a Star Wars game ever, it would be Knights of the Old Republic on the Xbox, or if someone was going to run a Knights of the Old Republic game where none of that crap is happened yet, then I would be happy to play it. But I've also only own 20 dice in my collection, and I'm not going to go out and buy a bunch of 6-sided dice so I can play a dice pool game. It's actually harder than you think to go into a store. I tried to buy a Yahtzee set for the dice for a naval game I'm playing, and I couldn't find one. And if I can't go to my local store and just buy some D6s, I'm not paying shipping for a bunch of dice that's going to cost me more for the shipping than the actual dice. There used to be a time you can go into any liquor store and literally buy two dice for like 79 cents, because people used to actually use dice for other things besides role-playing games. Yeah, I wasn't going to say that, but yeah.
How dare you?
Yeah,
It's
a game. It's a game.
On this station.
Heck, our dollar store sells dice.
No, Crafty does say that it, West End Games D6 is pure Star Wars. It's not the prequel stuff. It's not the sequel stuff.
Written.
It's just expanded universe. Actually, before even expanded universe, because I get it.
I own here. I got it right here. As a matter of fact, I've got the first edition, second edition, and something else. I think. What the fuck is it? What was the one that the? Why isn't it like right here? Hold on a second. I want to show you guys, because I do in fact have it. I just don't know where the hell I have it.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and
I've got it. Is it Dark Empire or something like that? There was a comic book series.
That's not it.
Well, I've got that, but I've also got the first and second edition of Star Wars. The somewhere. That's weird. I don't have it right here.
So my answer to Bo Paint's Minis question is, like, what if a brand new gamer was to sit at my table and say, hey, I'm new to gaming. What can you recommend I start with? I would probably recommend Index Card RPG. It is a very simple game to understand and get rolling in quickly. Other games I might consider telling them to get them started on the actual role playing aspect of it rather than just rolling dice would be something like Amber Diceless or maybe even World of
shit.
Darkness.
Really?
Why
really?
not?
Wow.
I mean,
Thank you, Dave.
get them into role playing. Get them into the habit of learning how to role play a character first, then start introducing them to the rolling mechanic games where, decisions are made with dice rolls, or rather detrimental outcomes or positive outcomes are made with dice rolls. First, you want to introduce them to actually learning how to role play first. Then comes the dice rolls. I mean, it's, yep, there you go. There's the, I'm gonna solo layout. There you go.
That's the one I was talking about. I didn't know which was, but I also have
there you go.
that and that. And of course, I do have both Amber Diceless role-playing game books. It's just weird because everybody, gives so much hate for Amber, especially over on Max's show, saying it's not actually a game, when in fact it is, because you don't need dice to play a game. Checkers and chess will prove that wrong every day of the week. But Amber is a great, it is pure role-playing. I'm surprised Shauner doesn't, bring it up, but then again, he's never read the book, so he can't really appreciate it. But you have to read the novels before you can, really play the game. And Roger Zelazny was a personal friend of mine, so thank you, Jade. You made my day.
Well, I mean, and I've actually sat down to read Amber, the Diceless, the role-playing game, and honestly, like, it focuses on role-playing. So I would say if you're new to the hobby and you want to learn how to actually role-play, start there. If you want to just roll dice for the sake of rolling dice and you're brand new to the hobby, go to Index Card RPG. It'll get you rolling dice immediately. And you'll have a good time with either one you choose, depending on how you want to play the game and how you want to learn how to play the game. There is nothing wrong with Amber.
Nothing.
Not in my opinion. I've read through it, and I thought it was actually pretty great.
It's a very well-supported game for its time, and there's still an active presence on the web of people that post about it here and there, which is nice.
Yeah, you could actually probably play Amber through MUDs or through like text chat pretty easily. So, all right, in the last 20 minutes of tonight's stream, which may not be enough, but that's fine. It'll spill over into tomorrow's stream of Table Breakers. Second edition D&D is a good one. I started with 3.5, by the way. So this question comes from Farmtron. And that is, with all of the WotC mess, should all of us that want to create start making our own unique stuff, or think we can trust other systems? So, for those of you who aren't in the know, which I don't know how you wouldn't be in the know by now, WotC has decided to come out with a new gaming license, a new open gaming license, which isn't quite as open as many would like. And you know what? They're a private company. They can do with their product what they want. This question is more to the fact of, for those content creators who want to create stuff for other people to enjoy, should they make it their own unique system or trust in another system? For this one, I'm going to start with Shadow.
Well, yesterday I announced my son and I we're creating System Agnostic Studios, where we will be making only game worlds and game settings and game adventures that will be completely system agnostic, and they could literally be used for short story writing or creative writing classes or anything like that, where there are no mechanics other than we will give you percentages on, just real world percentages, so to speak. If there's a 50% chance of a guard showing up, it will say that, okay? But it's just going to be strange new worlds and settings and campaign ideas that anybody can pick up and use for any system, because there's not enough of that. There are literally thousands of role-playing games out there with thousands of different systems and mechanics, and I've yet to find one game system that is the end-all, be-all, and I don't think I ever will. So if you want to go down that route, if you're a numbers guy, you like making up the rules, cool. But understand that you've got thousands of competitors, living and dead, that have all done it, and they're going to keep doing it. And unless you've got a budget, that can compete with the bigger companies or an actual company, you will probably almost assuredly get drowned in all the other competition. If that's what you want to do, cool. I'll support you even. I'll help you out wherever I can, but I just don't see a point to it. I can pick and choose. I can homebrew a game using parts of Traveller and D&D and 5 other game systems and call it my own. And, unless the entire world gets behind the system I create, I just, you're going to be doing it for, 20, 30, 50 people. And, I get it. If you've got that desire, that need to create something like that, cool. Just understand you are up against as much competition as the average guitarist wanting to strike it big and be the next big, Eddie Van Halen or whoever your favorite guitarist or musician is. It's a massively competitive, massively overflowing with people trying to do the same thing. You've really got to come up with something brand new for it to ever get any notice. But I wish you guys luck if you're going to do that. I would recommend, though, whatever game you're working on, come up with a world that hooks people. Otherwise, you're just reinventing the wheel.
Bruce.
I'm pretty happy with reinventing the wheel myself. For those of you that are going to make system agnostic style stuff, I really do recommend one of the companies that I read their stuff all the time is Columbia Games. And if you can get a hold of a Harn Master adventure, you'll find that 90% of the adventure is like 95 to 98% of it is completely engineless. And then you might find like some links that'll take you to the stats for the Harn Master system. But Harn writes adventures that are really well done, and they do a great job of giving you settings, compelling characters, good maps, topographical maps, which is a lacking thing in a majority of current edition shit that's out there. And I never don't talk about Columbia Games because when they write something for Harn, they've built a world that's meant to be imported into thousands of tabletops everywhere. So if you're going to copy, at least look at their homework and check them out. I recommend that, Shadow. I think that would be a splendid place for you to start from on getting your flag and getting your land established. I really do. As far as
I'll try to take a look.
I'm going to not make my own system. I'm going to compile a bunch of systems together. Since you can't sue me for copying rules, I'm going to put my name on it. Call it the game
Mechanics.
Yeah, you can't sue me. You can't take me to court for copying mechanics. I might even use the word saving throw instead of resistance roll. I might use the word armor class instead of defense. And I don't give a shit about wizards. Come at me. I'm a little man in Texas with a very big anger problem. Probably not your ideal person you want to pick on in a court of law because I'm Italian and I know how pigs eat flesh. And I don't give a shit about you. Let me retire in prison. Okay.
You'll have a lot of willing players, I'll tell you that. I know that from, I just know that for a fact that there are a lot of people in jail who play D&D.
I like the idea of writing my own system or compiling stuff together, and I can go through it and find all my text and replace that with words that aren't in an SRD. That's fine. I mean, what was it? Lich Lord had hits to kill instead of hit points. There's thousands of words out there that I can use.
That actually came from Arduin.
And so you can use a lot of different aspects, a lot of different things you can find in a thesaurus or dictionary to compile your own game, and it won't be that hard. Reaper just put out their own 64-page beta for Dungeon Dwellers, which is a basic clone. And even
that harkens all the way back to Heritage Miniatures Dungeon Dwellers line and games of through their Paint play set. I didn't know that. I'll have to check that out, Bruce.
It's not bad. It's a free download from reaperminiatures.com. And it's a fun little read. It goes up 3 levels, just like the old basic box did. I think everybody should actually try their hand at it and then just let the cream rise to the top. Don't be butthurt if it doesn't sell. I've failed on myself before. I had 2 books published. I'm not a millionaire, okay? And so I'm pretty okay with writing a game system that will appeal to me, because I want a game system that's crunchy. I want it to have Hackmaster 5e style initiative. I want to have a big, fluffy amount of stuff you could branch into for your character. And I do like the idea of 36 levels, like the old Rules Cyclopedia. I think that's fantastic. Arduin has 100 levels. I don't know if I want to do 100, but I want to at least, see what happens at level 36. And I think OSR compatible, or I think 5e stuff, it's probably going to wither on the vine thanks to Wizards dropping the soap on themselves. And the rest of us, we're going to have a very interesting time. You've got 5 major companies: Kobold, Paizo, Troll Lord, others. Grim Jim is writing their own. They're writing their own common Creative Commons or SRD for their own systems. It's going to fragment the base even further. Oh well. But if you are a decent GM and you can talk to people nicely, you'll be able to get people to sit at your table and play whatever game you want to run. That's just how it always has been. And I feel sorry for people that think they're just handcuffed to anything that Wizards put out. And Wizards never made a fucking thing. Wizards is a fucking Disney of the goddamn creative sphere. All Disney does is buy and acquire, and then they try to repackage the memories you had as a younger person and try to sell you these ones again. But yet these memories aren't nearly as nice, and all the chrome has come off, and the ideas behind it are kind of mismatched, and it's just a big bowl of fail. If you ever had like cow pie fresh from a pasture, that's what you're eating when you have Disney, and that's what this entire Hasbro shit seems like too. Hasbro bought the Tomy Zoids, and they've failed on that franchise. Everything Hasbro has done in the past 10 to 15 years has been a big box of fail. Look at what they've screwed G.I. Joe up. How can you screw up G.I. Joe? How can you screw up G.I. Joe? Anyway. Sorry.
What about you, Baron?
My whole thing is, I think what you're going to see is they're going to try to enforce it. Then people are just going to stop creating for it. They're going to go after really stupid, obscure things. And I think with the way that it's set up, they've kind of painted themselves in the corner, because I've read it, the leak. And it's not very well written.
No,
it feels like it was written by maybe a high school.
It is a draft.
Sophomore. Oh no,
it is a draft document.
Oh, it is, yeah. And they're like, oh well, unless you make $75,000, blah blah blah, we're not going to take any money. But anything you create is ours. I'm sorry. There's a game that I play called Space Engineers, and a very good friend of mine is a modder for that, Skylyborn. On the Twitch side, he's one of my moderators. Everything else, very good friend of mine. They actually, when they went to implement one of their updates that they were going to have people pay for, they tried to steal a mod that he created from the ground up, which was an eating food mechanic, which is not in the game whatsoever. And they tried to take that. His lawyer, of course, once he saw that, he sicked the lawyers on him, and they immediately had to pull it off the table, because they were under the impression that anything that was modded, which this is where I'm kind of seeing Wizards has the same same mentality as Keen does, which is the producer of Space Engineers, is that, well, anything that's modded for the game is for us to take. We can just take it carte blanche. We don't have to do anything. Don't even have to tell them about it. We'll just integrate it into the game, and it's done. And that was the first time they really got their hands slapped hard and realized that they actually had to ask the authors of it, because the way the coding was set up, if they can use it. I think that is how we are going to start seeing a lot of the people who are going to be producing things, is they're going to set it up in a way that it's either going to be A, system agnostic to where they can't take it, or B, they're going to have to ask, because it's not going to fall under the OGL. And I think what they're trying to do is that with the way that the OGL is written, they may have a bunch of people who have great ideas sitting in Seattle, but the issue is that it's become stagnant. So they want an easy farm spot where they can pull ideas and integrate what they like out of the folks who are, coming up with the ideas, those third party folks who are, either it's stuff that they've, house ruled in, whatever, but it gives them a larger base to just kind of take it. Oh, this is the really good stuff at the top, the cream of the cream, to take the cream and go, oh, this is now ours. Now we're going to like twist it and put it into a little hole and strain it. And oh, this was our idea. And I have a feeling that those publishers who are doing that are going to have to sign up and be tracked, which, that doesn't scream, anything huge. They're going to track your progress. They're going to track everything else like that. Yeah. The thing is that there are so many things that can go wrong with this. I don't think they're not looking ahead. They are looking at the model that the reason they brought the person in from Microsoft that they did to head up WotC was to set up those microtransaction type things. This is another step in getting those microtransactions in there and being able to have their finger on everything, so they can go after, they said, oh, well, we're only going after really big creators, and this is a way to get your stuff out there, until you hit that $75,000 mark, and they say, oh yeah, we want 20 to 25% of your money, give it to us, because we didn't work for it, we didn't sit and do all the marketing, we didn't sit and do everything, we're just going to take our cut. And no, that's not right. And it's not the way that this hobby should be. It should be, they talk about, they've been preaching so much all inclusiveness for so long. Now they're trying to make it not as inclusive, to not allow those flowing waters of creativity to help build the game up. They're trying to stagnate it. And the thing is once it gets stagnated, it'll go up on the shelf. And once it goes on the shelf, they'll let it sit for a little bit, and then they'll bring it back off. But I think that even though that it says it supersedes the other OGL, there's one part of the OGL that they've failed to take into consideration, which is that it states in the original OGL that it's irregular. It can't be pulled. So I think that's what a lot of people are going to do, is they're going to fall back to that document because it was the original document. And and I love how they also have in there that, oh, if you bring any court proceedings, oh, you're automatically out of the club. No, don't question us. It's our way or the highway. You try to question it, take us into court, whatever. You're out.
I'm just going to put this on stream and hope that the NSA satellite following me hears this. But There are 19 locations within a 5 mile of the WotC offices. 19 locations where I can rent a wood chipper. Just saying. Lawyers make good fertilizer. They have a lot of soy.
Well, it's not the lawyers you really need to worry about there, Bruce. With a $3 billion war chest aimed at stomping out the competition and acquiring a monopoly on the hobby, it's the bribable judges you have to worry about. All the lawyers in the world don't mean shit.
They're elected judges. They're elected judges.
I understand that, but if you say, we will give you $1 billion if you, rule in favor of us, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, I mean, you don't necessarily bribe them like that. How you get them in office or how you get them into their judiciary assignment is by contributing to their ad campaign. That's how you do that.
I'm trying to sum it up simply.
Anyway, so I'm going to give my thoughts on this, and then we'll be having closing remarks. But actually, no, I'm going to give my thoughts on this, and then I'm going to get to Flady's comment because Flady actually has a follow-up question to this because,
I didn't see an actual question.
So Flady, well, hold on, with all of the WotC mess, should all of us that want to create start making our own unique stuff? The answer is yes. Always make your own unique material. Don't necessarily, wait on someone else to create a mechanic for you to explore. Explore making mechanics for yourself. Be it your own game, be it, a friend's game. Always be thinking about mechanics and game aspects that haven't been created. Create your own stuff. Get it out there. Get it to your players. Get it to your friends. Let them pick it apart and work together to create something awesome. Now, to the second part of it is create stuff, our own unique stuff, or think that we can trust other systems. So trusting other systems is tough because keep in mind, the people who have made products are in it to make money sometimes. So the big companies, they're in it to make money. Like a company exists to make money, period. End of story. So trusting a big company with your concepts, your game mechanics that you would like to add to the system, not necessarily a great idea unless you can get something written on paper, that is notarized, an actual legal document that protects your individual thoughts and your individual like IP or creation. Then I would say, yeah, you could trust a big company if you have that legal document first. Beyond that, there are other games out there. And I'm going to speak on, the ones I know, the ones I've played and the ones I like. Index Card RPG has a huge community now. And there are so many creative individuals in Index Card RPG forums. You can actually find them on Runehammer forums online. And those guys and girls there, they are some of the most creative individuals I have come across. They are constantly hacking and modding Index Card RPG or ECD6 or what's the other one? Hardsuit, Morkborg, Viking Death Squad, like all of those games, they're constantly modding and hacking it to play the games that they want to play and play the themes and designs they want in their table. So I would say, if it's a little unknown game system, mod hack it for your own use, maybe reach out to the creator of it and be like, hey, got this idea. You can shoot me down, but you can't have it. But and make sure you save communications like that. But let's see here. Flady has a follow-up question to this. I'm going to get back up to it. Question I have stuck in my head, a custom game system for playing a specific style of RPG that could be used with any setting. However, I have not created a specific setting. So my thought is, so your question I have stuck in my head at a
What's
custom
the actual
game
question?
system. Yeah. What is the question? So are you talking about like making your own entire system without a setting? Is that what you're asking there, Flady? While he responds with that.
No, he said there was a part 2 to that.
This is the part 2. So the thing is something, or thing. Hold on. Thing is something make the thing. This is something
Is it
worth
something
making
wor-
or does every game. Okay, is it something worth making or does every game need its own setting world? No. So I would say, actually, I'll go first on this one. I don't think a system needs a setting. A system is an engine, and that engine can be picked up and put into any vehicle. So, and I'm going to use a car analogy. Yeah, I am a bit of a gearhead, a wrench turner. I can take a Ford engine and put it. I can take I'm going to say a 4-cylinder engine out of, I don't know, a Focus, and I can put it in a Chevy Cavalier. Will it run? The answer is yes. I can mount it in such a way that it should be able to make the vehicle move. The car, the whatever the skin of the car is, that's your setting. The engine is what drives the setting. So, do you need an engine specific to a setting? No. Does it help? Sometimes. Star Wars D6 works amazing in Star Wars. Does Star Wars D6 work in something like, I don't know, D&D or a high fantasy game? Maybe not. Can you tweak it? Yes, you can. Can you make it work? Yeah, I would say, yeah, you can make it work. What about you, Shadow?
For the most part, everything you just said, I agree with. However, the difference between science fiction and fantasy and modern day versus horror, there are enough subtleties in there that it does help if you design it for a setting or at least a group of settings, because you might leave out magic, or you might leave out psionics, or you might leave out gunplay, martial arts. You can try and make a generic universal role-playing system, but we all know where that went, and it was, not everybody's cup of tea. So just take that in mind when you're working on a game system. What are you leaving out? Because if you leave out certain things, then it's going to be obviously geared for the things that it will run. So you can do it, without a setting, but you really kind of should at least think of what settings it will work in before you just let it loose on the public, because then people will come back at you and be like, yeah, this won't work in a magic system because you left out all the spells and all the things for magic. Or, you get my drift. So good luck. That's pretty much all I can think.
What about you, Bruce?
I would say that I agree pretty much with everything that's been said so far. I would say that you can make a system for something specific and have a lot more success than try to make a kitchen sink and hope that it fits every potential genre out there. Like I said, I'm starting my own system, and I've been fucking with it for the past maybe year. And ever since Paizo let go of Pathfinder 1E, had this idea, but I really like the crunch of Pathfinder 1E, and I really like 3.x, but I don't like his D20. So I think I'm going to just put a D100 in there, change some words around thanks to thesaurus.com, thesaurus.com, and go at it and kit bash a system together that has worked in my head for a while, Maybe we'll see where it doesn't work in play, but I'd rather have it fail in play than have it be just sitting on a shelf, never tested. And I think it has a good chance to make players really happy. I think you have a chance to where you could have a system that reflects very well the rules within the reality that you want to adventure within. You have a sandbox, you have a control area, and you have an area where you can test all these various things. And I think if any of us have ever had that inkling that we could write it, that we should write it, I think now is a good time. I know, Against the Dark Master, Shadow of the Demon Lord's good too. Shadow of the Demon Lord's really good, actually. Go ahead there,
And
Jake.
how about you? Huh?
Go ahead. No, I was just kicking it back.
Okay. How about you, Baron?
Well, I think when you're looking at an engine, I think almost what he's talking about is something similar to almost like a Rifts type engine. Or
GURPS.
Or GURPS or something like that, where I can foresee that it would work, but you're going to have even with I'm going to Index Card RPG. I'm going to use that because even within that gaming system, yes, it has the base of the game, but there are going to be tweaks for each system that you're going to have to, and rule sets for each system or type of system that you're going to have to come up with. And it's just for the simple fact of, okay, if you're doing a mostly like sci-fi, okay, there may be magic, but magic reacts different in sci-fi than it does maybe in fantasy. Whereas, you have sci-fi weapons aren't going to work in fantasy.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. There's a crashed spaceship over there against the Wizard's Mountain.
And everything exploded. So, no.
Significantly advanced technology.
Yeah. But you understand where I'm coming from with that, is that it is something that I think you'll have to actually wind up tweaking and adjusting in order to be able to get it to where you need it to be to work with each individual genre. I would say a genre specific rule book would be the best way. And even if it's only like a 5-10 page thing of, hey, with this is what it is. These are with sci-fi, these rules are what is on top of the existing rules, and basically just make it additive. Where that I think that's going to be your easiest way if you're going to be doing something like this. Yes, go ahead and have that base system, but have mechanics ready to overlay on top of that to make it work better.
So it's funny you bring up Index Card RPG and modding and then hacking and whatnot. So the game I'm wanting to run, my Bronze Era game, I've taken the core concept of what Index Card RPG is. Basically the, roll attempt, roll for effort, roll a check, pass, fail. I've taken a lot of those concepts and the core mechanics of it, and I have made entirely unique classes, starting classes. I've made unique paths, unique tiers, unique everything. So my setting is basically the car in which the engine, the core mechanics of how to play the game will plug into. And the core mechanics for the engine is going to be Index Card RPG, but I'm not going to use Alfheim. I'm not going to use Warp Shell or Ghost Mountain or any of the core settings. I have my own setting, just running it with those rules. And the core concept there is roll a d20, can add your whatever stat that's being called for to make a check or attempt. If pass, roll effort. Effort's your standard D4, D6, D8, D10, D12, and the mechanics of the game will tell you what you need to roll. So before we get into the outros for the evening, I'm going to go solo mode here real quick. If you haven't already, consider subscribing to myself and the other people in this panel. I will make sure that Bruce gets added to the description of the YouTube video later. If you want to join our discussion and suggest topics for future episodes, consider joining our Discord. That link is also going to be in the description.
Gilded.
So,
Gilded.
We don't actually have a Gatekeepers Gilded, unfortunately. Not something I've really put much thought into. I probably should. So, I'm going to start with Shadow. What do you got going on this week, sir?
Just the usual father and son shenanigans. The boy and I are doing a crafting video showing you how to make some really small scale sailing ships and nautical themed chicanery for a little game called Galleys and Galleons, or if you're a fan of the old Man of War game, we're sort of revisiting some of the techniques there, and then hanging out with the rest of you guys this week, between Table Breakers, Max's live stream, Connell's show, who couldn't be here today because the bastard was playing a damn role-playing game. How dare he?
A nerd.
Hey, support the hobby.
No, I've already played 2 games this week. Hell, I played 2 games on Monday. And I got invited to a really, really cool game later on down the road, which was actually pretty flattering considering who's in it. But more on that later. But, just usually the usual father and son stuff, or, when my son's away and I'm bored and all here, hanging out here, when I'm not hanging out with Hungar on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'll maybe throw up another one of my Why We Play the Game videos. But for the most part, just trying to stick to the old schedule and, do as much as I can with my son in the little bit of time that I get to spend with him between school and JROTC and fencing class and chess club. He's got a better social life than I do. But yeah, that's it for me.
Give it 20 years.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, I'll be dead, but yeah.
All right. How about you, Bruce? What do you got going?
I'll be doing a couple videos here and there. Almost done scripting the work that I'm doing for the OGGM review for his Night of the Gobbler. He's got a Thanksgiving themed adventure module that will probably be getting yanked off of Big Geek Emporium here in the next 48 hours. And damn it, I'm going to feel like a dick if I don't talk about it, because I've been reading through it and I like it. I think it's cute. I think it's funny. I think it's a good little Halloween, or not Halloween, but Thanksgiving themed adventure that it's going to suck if it gets pulled and nobody else bought it. But be nice to the guy and see where he posts the new version of it up at once he's done with it. He's going to be tearing down a lot of stuff over the next week and trying to get it reworked to fit the game that he wants to make, or the game that he wants to patronize.
I'm actually in a game with OGGM on Mondays.
He said he's planning to burn everything he made under the OGL. That sucks. Okay, as long as he remakes it under the rules, that's fine. That's what I want. That's what I want. The OGL just needs to go the hell away. If they're gonna try to pantomime, oh no, the new one is the only one that matters. Listen, Broham, the first one that came out says it never expires. It exists in perpetuity. And if you don't like the follow-up to it, and the first one says, if you don't like anything that's been written subsequently to this, you may reflect back upon this contract. And that's the fucking lettering of that law. I can't wait to see the OGL legal team try to fight. I really can't. Yeah, $3 billion slush fund. That's great. Wait till Amazon tries to do something with their products and they're like, wait, we have to sign up for the OGL because of one of our programs? Or wait, what about Disney with the various Star Wars and Marvel things that some of them have been written with the OGL in mind? Not all of them. KOTOR and Knights of the Old Republic don't have a bit of the OGL in it, which I'm thankful for. But there's things that Disney owns that was written with the OGL. And I want to see how this shakes out. I'm very curious. And I want to see how Disney, and Wizards get along at this point. I'm just curious. I'll be busy through this week. I'll probably drop a video a night.
What about you, Baron? What do you got going?
Well, I am almost ready to do the
Exalted.
well, that's next week. We're not there yet. But no, what I'm looking at is I've almost got all the way through Cowpunchers, so I'll be starting my series on that. Then yesterday I recorded a thing. I did an unboxing, which is already back in the box for now. It will be going up here in a week or two, as soon as I get the okay from the folks that I've been talking to. It's beautiful, and I will preview just a little bit of swag that they sent. That's something that they actually drew, and it was a sticker that they had in there. It's a little D20 beholder, and one of their little token things that they threw in there. That's that is their logo. They have a Kickstarter that's going to be coming up. They did send me an advanced copy of what is going to be on the Kickstarter, and it's I think a lot of people are going to like it. It's very well made, and I think it is definitely going to be worth the money that they're asking for. So, but that'll be coming up here. I've recorded it. I still got to edit it and everything else, but that'll be about a week or two out before that actually gets published. So
Awesome. Well, as far as me, you can find me hanging out with, these guys tomorrow on Table Breakers. And from the sounds of it, it sounds like it's going to be Table Breakers versus the OGL. So be sure to check out either Bruce or BaronGRock's channels for the Table Breakers episode. Beyond that, I am being urged by several individuals to talk more about system agnostic or agnostic settings for my own channel. And maybe, just maybe, I should take their advice and put out some videos that are completely agnostic to whatever game system you are playing. But that has been, this has been Gatekeepers, and I'm glad that you guys could spend some time with us. I really appreciate you guys in the chat. I appreciate my panel. Thank you for showing up and going through this omnibus of questions. Well, with that, be it a low-level adventure or a grand epic, as long as a good times are to be had, my tavern will be open. Have a great night, everyone.